Hi, and welcome to tonight's nightmare. I'm your host, Amy Metcalf. If you haven't heard, my co-host Ashley has stepped down for personal reasons. So it's just going to be me from now on, which I hope is a good thing for everybody, and I hope it's okay. I did take a couple weeks off as I needed to kind of prepare myself to do this all on my own. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy tonight's nightmare. And I do want to preface that you might hear my dogs in the background. I'm hoping they'll be quiet, but I can't promise anything. But yeah, so let's get to it. In tonight's nightmare, we will be discussing mermaids. So the history, the legends, and so much more. I luckily found all the information I needed in one website, and it was very, very informative. The website is rmg.co.uk, and they portrayed so much of the stories so well, and there's even a bunch of pictures. I will post some of them to Instagram, and I will also post other things to Instagram regarding the mermaids. And why I kind of wanted to talk about this is I've seen videos over the past few years of like clips that people are like, oh my god, that's a mermaid, and they're really creepy. They are not the Little Mermaid that I thought of. The mermaid that I dream of being. They are very creepy looking creatures that you see. Now, whether they're real or they're CGI and edited videos, who knows? But I don't know if anybody else has seen them. I do recommend looking it up because it is very interesting, and it's like so scary. Like this girl, she posted on TikTok, I can't remember her name. If I find it, I'll post it on Facebook or something. But she shared some clips that she had found about mermaids, and one of them, it was so creepy. There was this boy, it looked like he was like underneath a dock, like one of those really high ones, and he bent over like a wood piece in the water, right? And as he did that, you just see a webbed hand come out of the water and reach for him, and then that's it. And I was just like, that is creepy, that is scary. I'll only be swimming in pools from now on. And yeah, so definitely get on there and definitely check that out because it is so freaking crazy. Like the stuff that they have out there, and whether it's real or not is I kind of hope it's real, because like I hope that there are other creatures other than us, like sentient creatures and all that other stuff. And our waters are not as explored as like obviously our land and outer space. Like I think we've explored outer space a whole lot more than we've explored under the waters, and who knows what's down there in all reality. But so yeah, basically, what is a mermaid? So, tales of mermaids date back to the first written accounts of humanity, but how much do we know about all the mythical sea creatures that are out there? A mermaid is a mythical sea-dwelling creature, often described as having the head and body of a human and a tail of a fish. Stories of mermaids have existed for thousands of years and span cultures across the world. So from coast to coast, basically, in all different settlements, such as Ireland, to the landlocked Karoo Desert, which is in Africa. And the English word mermaid is a compound of mer, which is the Old English for sea, and maid, a girl or young woman. So mermaids do symbolize certain things in different cultures as well. So with such a rich and varied history, the symbol of the mermaid is very changeable as the sea itself. Like we all know of different versions of mermaids, I do believe. Like there's the sirens, and then there's just what do you call them? I guess it would just be like regular mermaids, right? So, but yeah, so you have those, and in some cultures, the mermaid signifies life and fertility within the ocean, which is pretty cool. And in others, she embodies the destructive nature of the water, luring sailors to their deaths. So that would be the sirens. They also serve as an omen for storms, unruly seas, and certain other disasters. So here are a few other myths and legends of mermaids that have reached our shores, according to the website. In Africa, Mami Wata. So this is in the West, South, and Central Africa. They have a range of tales that exist about mythical water spirits, which they call the Mami Wata, meaning water as mother or mother of the water. These spirits or divinities do stem from multiple cultures within the African and ancient roots. There are no singular characteristic to their identity. So the Mami Watas, is gender fluid, meaning she can appear sometimes as a man or a woman, which is actually really cool. So the spirit is worshipped for both their benevolence in offering beauty, healing, and wisdom, and as a way of warding off natural disasters. So after the colonialism and the rise of the slave trade in the 1600s, the stories and beliefs of the Mami Wata spread across the globe and remain an important source of spiritual connection with African communities seeking to reclaim their traditions and cultural identities. So here, the next we have ancient Greece and Rome, which are the sirens and mermaids, which I brought up earlier. So Greek and Roman mythology, the mermaids there are closely characterized by the European myths that we think about today. So many of the Greek myths equate sirens with mermaids. However, while they share many characteristics, they are now seen as two different entities, not identities. So we have famous Greek folk tale that claimed Alexander the Great's sister, Thessalonike, was transformed into a mermaid upon her death in 295 BC and lived in the Aegean Sea. Whenever a ship passed, she would ask the sailors one question: "Is King Alexander alive?" If the sailors answered correctly, declaring he lives and reigns and conquers the world, Thessalonike would allow the ship to continue on its journey. Any other answer was said to anger her, and she would conjure a storm and doom the vessel and its sailors to a death at sea. It almost sounds like crossing a bridge and meeting a troll and having to answer a riddle. But yeah, so in Eastern Europe, so Rusalki is basically the translation for mermaid. They are basically water nymphs of Slavic mythology, and while initially regarded as benevolent spirits of fertility and agriculture, Rusalki gained a more sinister description in the 1800s. They were believed to be the ghosts of women who died violent deaths by drowning. That is scary. So because of this, they use their anger and sorrow to lure men and children to their watery deaths, which is so scary. In Ireland, they're called Merrows, and female Merrows, with their beauty and long green hair, resemble our traditional views of mermaids. Their counterpart, the male Merrow, is considered grotesque, cruel, and more fish than man. So these must be the ones that we see in the videos, the more grotesque ones, because they are pretty grotesque. They're very light grayish, like very sickly gray, with the webbed fingers. In some videos you'll see like a face almost, but it's like a piranha mixed with a human face. So I wonder if that is what, like, is where the Irish get the looks for the male Merrows. But the ruthless nature of the male Merrow is why the creatures were said to have relationships with humans. Okay. It doesn't go on after that, and yeah, okay. So in Southeast Asia, the mermaids are called Suvana Maka. So the Asian folklore includes the story of a mermaid princess, Suvana Maka, meaning golden fish. Ramayana, the country's retellings of the Indian epic poem, one of the heroes, Hanuman, attempts to build a bridge of stones across the sea. His plans are hampered by the Suvana Maka, who have been instructed to prevent the causeway's completion. Two meet up and fall in love, and Suvana Maka ends up helping Hanuman finishing the path. The mermaid is now seen as a herald of good luck, and her figure is depicted in charms, streamers, and icons throughout Cambodia, Thailand, and I think it's Laos. I never know how to say it, and I'm very sorry. But yeah. And then, of course, in the Scottish Isles in Scotland, they are called sulkies. Now, I have heard of this term, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the term selkie. While not exactly fishy, the Scottish selkie has often been connected to mermaid mythology. So, these mermaids are shape-shifting, and they live as seals while in the sea and transform into humans while on land. In Gaelic stories, they are often described as Magdalene Mara, meaning maiden of the sea. In their stories, selkies are uncertain creatures. The stories do have them tempting humans into the water, but others where they cast off their seal skins, marry humans, and begin families. The tales usually end in tragedy when the selkie returns to the oceans with or without their loved ones. Now, do the loved ones turn into mermaids? That is my question, and I would like to know if there are any selkies out there. Please tell me whether or not your loved one who is human can go into the water with you and become one as well. In Western Europe, they're called Melusine. I hope I'm saying that right. And they are feminine spirits found in many medieval European folk tales. The Melusine has a serpent or fish's tail and sometimes has wings. That's actually kind of cool. There is a... I don't know if it's this one, but there is a picture of a statue where it's, I think, a woman's upper body, but they do have wings. So I wonder if that's what that is supposed to look like. But, so in Hungary, France, and Germany, they all have different accounts of the Melusine. The most famous legend describes her as a willful girl who tries to get revenge on her human father on behalf of her fairy mother. Oh, that's why they have wings. Only to be punished by her mother with a tail. I get it. Okay. So, in contemporary symbols, the more recently the figure of the mermaid was adopted by the Transgender Youth Network. So because this is a UK website, it's a group out in the UK. They were founded in 1995, and the organization supports children and young people who are transgender or gender diverse. The symbol of the mermaid provides a potent symbol to the community due to the mermaid's ability to transform. So, as you heard in most of those stories, there are shapeshifters. One of them was shown as either man or woman, and I feel like they are also very sexual creatures a lot of the time, and so they tend to it's so hard to... They're very open. That's what I'm trying to say. They're very open when I say they're very sexual creatures, but they're very open when it comes to sexuality and being who you are, and wanting to be able to change whenever they feel like it and express themselves as how they see themselves. So it's a great figure to be using for a group like that. And but yeah, and it says here too, the mermaid provides a potent symbol to the community due to the mermaid's ability to transform, which I said. With the absence of physical genitalia, the sex of the mermaid is irrelevant because they do have the tail. So yeah, I guess if you wanted to check that out, I don't know what the website would be for that because it doesn't say, but I'm sure if you look up, I think it's called Mermaids UK, or just Google Transgender Youth Mermaids UK, and I'm sure it will come up and give you a little bit more of an idea of like what they do. So the origin of mermaids. How far into humanity's past our stories of mermaids reach out is unknown. Possibly since we first began finding creatures in the sea. Archaeologists have found accounts in Mesopotamian mythology of Oannes, a male fish god from over 5,000 years ago. One of the earliest mermaid legends appeared in Syria around 1000 BC. When the goddess Atargates dove into a lake to take the form of a fish, as the gods would not allow her to give up her great beauty, only her bottom half became a fish, and she kept her top half in human form. Archaeologists have found Atargates figure on ancient temples, statues, and coins. While the early Britons, such as the Celts, have folk tales of mermaids, no illustrations have been uncovered. The earliest depiction of a mermaid in England can be found in Norman Chapel in Durham Castle, built around 1078 by Saxon stonemasons. It is a strange carving with the mermaid found alongside two leopards and several hunting scenes. Historians believe the mermaid symbolizes the temptations of the soul. Now, are mermaids lucky? So, I guess it depends on the culture, as some do see them as lucky. So in sailor folklore, mermaids represent both good fortune and disaster. As sailors spent months, sometimes years, traveling across vast oceans, it's not surprising that beliefs and superstitions of figures controlling the unpredictable weather appeared in nautical stories over the centuries. The mermaid's conflicting personalities as both a beautiful and seductive maiden and a monstrous sea creature that dragged sailors to their deaths is a fitting representation for the wild, violent yet fascinating nature of the sea itself. Mermaids often appear as figureheads on the front of nautical vessels. The figurehead, which was popular between the 16th and 20th centuries, is a carved wooden decoration located on the bow of the ships. While many different decorations have been used, mermaids proved popular with the sailors as they were believed to appease the sea, ensuring good weather and finding a safe way back to land. Early map makers such as Olaus Magnus used sea monsters, including mermaids, to portray dangerous geographic areas of the oceans, places where bad weather and shipwrecks were frequent. To this day, shipwrecks are frequent when vessels are coming into land. Running aground can happen for any number of reasons, such as changes in water depths or navigating errors. But this may explain why sirens or mermaids were said to congregate in these regions. What is the difference between a siren and a mermaid? So in early Greek mythology, sirens were half women, half bird creatures, and are often confused with mermaids. The misconception is led to the word siren being used instead of a mermaid, such as sirène in French. While mermaids are morally ambiguous creatures, sirens were said to always be malicious and dangerous, attracting sailors with their captivating voices towards the hazardous rocky coast of the island. In Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey, the titular hero of the story ties himself to the mast to hear the song of the sirens without destroying his ship. This story is where our term siren song originates, referring to a request that is hard to resist, but that, if heeded, will lead to a catastrophe. Now, we've had stories about the dark side of Disney. So a lot of authors have these darker versions of the Disney classics that we all love. One of them is The Little Mermaid, which was written by Hans Christian Andersen. And in his version of The Little Mermaid, which was published in 1837 in Copenhagen, Denmark, basically, it is the saddest thing in the world. When I read these, it just, it's so sad. So, obviously, Andersen and Disney's versions of the tale have noticeable differences. So in Andersen's story, the mermaid princess loses her tongue to obtain legs, and every time she walks, her pain is compared to walking on knives. And I believe this also doesn't say how gruesome it is, because I'm pretty sure that in his story, her tongue is actually cut out. and that's how she loses it. So, and then obviously in the Disney tale, she just gets to marry the prince in the long run, and she just loses her voice. But in Andersen's story, the princess fails to undo her curse, and the prince marries someone else. So the Little Mermaid sacrifices herself and ends up living with the spirits of the air. So basically she dies in the end, and she doesn't get the prince, and she went through so much pain to try and do so for him to fall in love with someone else. That is the saddest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. They really put women out there, man. They really do. So there is a portrait of Queen Elizabeth I. It's called the Armada portrait. And if you notice, I will put this on Instagram. If you look in the back, you can see on the left there are a bunch of ships, and on the right, I kind of have to zoom in. There's ships that are in really rough waters. And then Queen Elizabeth is sitting. I guess I don't know if she's on a ship or if those are art pieces behind her, but she has a statue of a mermaid in gold sitting beside her while her hand is on a globe, which flat earthers, the earth is round. Historians are conflicted whether the mermaid imagery is simply a typical piece of Renaissance decoration or connected to the two ship scenes above. So the calm, serene side, and then the really not so calm seaside on the other side. The mermaid may represent Elizabeth's ability to provide calm seas to her English fleet and summon tempestuous storms for her Spanish rivals, much like a mermaid. Whatever the case, the depiction is a potent image of a lone queen exerting her power as her subjects fought at sea. Mary, Queen of Scots, the Mermaid, and the Hare. So this is an allegorical sketch of Queen Mary of Scots in Edinburgh, circa June 1567. Sorry, my dog is trying to get my attention. Interestingly, this symbol of the mermaid also appears in a series of illustrations of Mary, Queen of Scots, Elizabeth's cousin and rival for the throne. However, these sketches were made with very different intentions following the murder of Mary's husband, Henry Stuart, also known as Lord Darnley. On the 10th of February 1567, these allegorical posters of unknown origins began appearing around Edinburgh. The signs allude to Mary as a mermaid and her future third husband, James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell, as a hare. In these symbolic drawings, the mermaid represents a figure of temptation and prostitution, while the hare symbolizes a lustful animal. As propaganda, it promotes Elizabeth as the virtuous virgin queen, while implicating Mary in the death of her second husband and portraying her as a prostitute. In James Clark Hook's painting, Catching a Mermaid in 1883, we have a merging of reality and childhood fantasy. Hook shows a young boy hauling the figurehead of a mermaid from a beautiful but turbulent sea, while two other children watch from behind a rock. The lighthearted title belies the potentially tragic disaster of a ship lost at sea. Then there is Franz Franken allegory, Ship of State. So in Franz Franken the First, from 1542 to 1616, painting Allegory, the Ship of State, late 1500s, Franken depicts a Spanish ship filled with Catholic dignitaries attempting to navigate a path through a series of treacherous islands with volcanoes, meteorites, giants, and wolves. The allegory of the title refers to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato's often cited metaphor, comparing the command of a state to that of a naval vessel. The painting alludes to the political upheavals of the time between Europe and Spain and the Protestant revolt against the Roman Catholic Church. In the front and center of the painting are two mermaids admiring themselves with mirrors. The mermaids here may represent the dangers of a shipwreck from drawing too close to the rocks and the vanity of the figures on board. Evelyn de Morgan, The Sea Maidens, in 1886. This beautiful painting by de Morgan, 1855 to 1919, shows 5 mermaids embracing each other and staring out at the viewer, perhaps towards a shoreline. The painting is part of a series linked to Andersen's The Little Mermaid. The scene is thought to relate to the heroine's 5 sisters wistfully visiting the shore after she has transformed into a human. The forlorn looks upon their faces could signify their desire for their sister to return to waters with them. The painting displays Evelyn's profound appreciation for color and mastery of the brush, noticeable in the vibrant iridescence of mermaid scales. So that is basically the legends, the symbolism, and different stories about mermaids throughout the years, throughout the centuries. They have been around for a very, very long time, and who knows how far back stories of them have been, around, Because there were times before things were written and drawn on caves or on walls and on papyrus or whatever the case is. So we never know how long something has been around for. And this is one of those things, because I feel like stories of mermaids have been around for a super long time, and I really, really want to know more. And I really kind of do hope they're real, but not at the same time, because they're very creepy, and I would never go swimming if they were real, unless they are to be friendly. Maybe I'll make friends with one. I did always want to be a mermaid, but Little Mermaid type mermaid. I do love swimming, and I do love the water, and knowing that there is more out there is so interesting to me, especially when it comes to water, because I do love it so much. So hopefully we find out a lot more about that. And yeah, so that is all for tonight's nightmare. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know if I'm going to be editing this or posting it raw, because even though perfection is key a lot of the times, sometimes you gotta realize we're all not perfect. And I might edit this later, I might not, but I also want to share to a lot of people, because a lot of people have a hard time understanding this, and especially young kids. And I'm a nanny, and I work with younger kids, so I definitely want to remind everybody that even though you're doing something that you feel like needs to be 100% perfect all the time, it really doesn't have to be. We all make mistakes. We all stumble on our words or don't know how to pronounce something. And it's okay. As long as we're trying, and as long as we're doing it in a respectful way, that's all that matters. we are not perfect beings. We are not meant to be perfect. I'm the most clumsiest person around. And I still have people who love and care for me, even though I drop stuff, or I break things, or I hurt myself. I message my friends all the time, and I'm like, so this is today's boo-boo. I don't say it like that. I'll be like, I burned myself, or I somehow cut myself. I don't know how. And I'm sure they're about to wrap me up in bubble wrap. But just remember, you are not perfect, and that is okay. That's what makes you who you are, and that's what actually does make you perfect, is the fact that you can make mistakes and you can earn up to that. So I really hope you enjoy my episodes with and without all my mistakes. And check out my Facebook group. It's going to be linked in the description below. You can also check out all my socials, which will be in the link tree in the description below. And please check out my Patreon. It helps me a lot because I do fund this podcast on my own now. And I would really like to do more for everybody. And to do that, I would have to put it out on Patreon, which I want to kind of like go exploring or do Q&As and all that other stuff. Make it fun. And yeah, so I just hope you had a great night, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's nightmare, and I will see you in the next one. All right, have a great night, guys. Bye.